Welcome to the Full Advisor Coaching Podcast with your host, Kristin Harad. Kristin, good to be with you again. How are you?
I'm great, Bill. How are you doing?
I'm good. I've been seeing a lot of you on LinkedIn lately.
Yes,
That's nice.
I like hanging out there. In our whole last two episodes, well, I should say episodes 14 and 15, I think they are all about LinkedIn. So it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. I love it. Talking about LinkedIn on LinkedIn, there's a certain synergy there, So what have you got going today?
Today I'm excited. We have a great guest today. He's full of energy. So many consider him the heart of our industry. He's an energetic leader. I'm excited to welcome Eric Negron, the CEO of Forefront Wealth Partners. They're a firm in Austin, Texas. You may have seen Eric he is often on LinkedIn as well. And the reason I have him on today is because he's extremely passionate about elevating the advisor community. He has the Financial Advisor Group FAN, and he participates in the David Advisor Movement, the DAM. So he's very generous with his time, with his knowledge, and his energy. And I'm excited to have him here today. Thanks for coming, Eric.
Thank you for having me, Kristin. I'm excited to be here with you. I'm excited for the amazing work that you've been doing in our industry for so long, and for the opportunity for us both to participate in my life's purpose, which is to leave the world better off than I found it. And to, one part of that, or one component of that, is to elevate our advisor profession and help train the next generation of advisors that are coming. Because where your reality is that there's over 360 Americans, and not one of them has a shot with achieving financial independence without professional and caring help. So I'm super excited for what you're doing and to be here with you.
Oh, great. Yes. And you know what I want to talk about today, Eric, because you and I have had some conversations, and I always leave them quite energized and inspired. And I want to talk about it's kind of a higher level aspect, but the full advisor coaching community is really about helping advisors, REA leaders, and financial advisors achieve professional success and personal fulfillment, knowing that a lot of the advisors who will be drawn into the work that I'm doing want to feel full in kind of all areas of their lives. Yeah. They're very professionally driven, but they also put a lot of energy into other parts of their lives. And one of the insights that kind of spurred the branding for me and the repositioning of my work is this idea of this underlying buzzing feeling that advisors have that they're operating at less than full potential. Like they know there's more, and it's not necessarily a negative. It's just more about how can I reach that next level of potential and really fulfill all that I know I can give. And today, because you're so dialed in on mindset and inspiration, I really want us to have a conversation around, how is it that we can really tap into that potential, and what are some ways that advisors can reset their mindset or get back on track if they're not quite there?
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal starting point. I think a lot of advisors, we brought into a profession, and everything is about skill set, right? There's technical things that you're learning, like what the heck a stock and a bond is, what's a mutual fund, what's an IRA, all the tax consequences. And we get paralyzed from doing the human to human, the heart to heart, caring for other people work, because I don't know about anybody who's going to be listening to this or is listening to this right now, is that none of us want to be perceived as being dumb or not knowing something. And I remember in the beginning of my career, I was paralyzed by the thought of a client or a prospective client asking me a question, and I felt like I needed to know everything about everything. And
Mm.
financial advising is like the most giant elephant that nobody could ever there,
Yeah.
that nobody could ever eat, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And I think we need to shift the focus of advisors becoming their true authentic self and really working on who they are, their heart, their character, and tapping into that. Because even if you're listening to us right now and you're alone, you run a solo practice, I guarantee you, you need to start changing your language. I should be stripped out of your language, because even if you're solo, you're a we. You have access to different companies that can give you insights. You have wholesalers and different vendors that can give you resources. So you need to make the shift from I to we. And then as you start to scale, then you're going to go from I to we to team. And that all starts with who you are, what you're about. And the reality of when you shift from I to we is this: it's not all on you. So, really, your job is to connect with other human beings and make it safe for them to want to get financially naked with you so that you can help them. Because that's really what we're asking people to do, is to feel comfortable getting financially naked with us so that we can help them.
Right, right. No, absolutely. I love that. That imagery is something, right?
Yes, it
Yeah, you're
is.
like, maybe I'll change my target audience. No, I'm just kidding.
Because
Just
the
kidding.
worst thing, you didn't ask this, but the worst thing that we can do is we get so technically smart in this profession that when somebody comes in and they've made a poor financial decision, or they've had indecision, which is a
Right,
decision as
right,
well, doing nothing, right?
right.
Every people talk about that. It's Nobody wants to be made to feel bad about decisions that they made. And quite frankly, they shouldn't feel bad, because last time I checked, the school system doesn't educate people around financial literacy. And as
Right.
advisors, we should be our clients' advocates, and we should be educators and encouragers first and foremost before we become technicians or investment people or insurance people or whatever the heck we're calling ourselves nowadays.
Right, right. It's really interesting because when I started my RAA, I had before I became, CFP and did all that, I was studying being a life coach, because I was so drawn to like people finding fulfillment in their life, what's their purpose, and how can we help them feel fulfilled. And then I started thinking, okay, well, being a marketer, I also knew I had to niche, and I kind of started thinking about who would I want to help and how would I want to help them. So I was very drawn to money and what money does for people. And to the point that you made, like, people just aren't trained or educated in how to use money to fuel like all areas of their lives. And I find that I think advisors job, more so than what's the right balance of my portfolio and have I optimized everything for taxes, is really around educating on how is it that you're aligning your money with your intention, your values, your goals, and feeling good to be able to live the life you want to live. Right. That's really what we do. As advisors.
That's the real work. The real work
Right.
is about helping people live better, more fulfilled lives, to have less financial anxieties, because money can be a great resource and it can be essential, almost like oxygen, to create the true freedoms that most people want, which is, freedom of time, freedom of money, so you can do what you need to do, freedom of relationships, so you can spend time with the people that you care about the most, whether that's your spouses, your significant others, your children, your good friends.
Right.
And then the freedom to get to a point where you can pursue your purpose in life, whatever that is,
Right.
beyond money, beyond your job, the thing that lights you up. And so
Right.
I think this profession has attracted a lot of people that are
Yeah.
very technical, spreadsheet ninjas. And I'm going to be honest, if they do not evolve into becoming more integrative life coach, type of advisors, like really helping people live better, like the industry is going to move away from them because they will be commoditized. And
Right,
if you
right.
can't do something that your client's like, I can't quantify what my advisor does for me, but what I
Mhm.
can tell you is since they came into my life, I
I
feel
feel
more
good.
confident
Yeah,
about
I
my
feel good.
future. I feel better. I feel like I have a better grasp of things. And I know that my person is one phone call away, one text message away, one email away, one Zoom call away to help me get back to where I need to be so I can go on pursuing my purpose.
Right, right. No, absolutely, 100%. And I think, one of the things that I think is frustrating for advisors who are in connection with, the heart element of the profession, can be like, and like they can get frustrated. Like, I want to help more people, and I have this ability, and I want to be out there helping more people. And how is it? And I know they can fall victim to comparing themselves to other people and trying to measure up and be like, okay, I'm not doing what they're doing, or how come that person looks like they have it all and I don't have it all?
Yep.
How is it that I know you have a great perspective on this, on like
Yeah.
separating self-worth and comparison and
Yeah.
comparing to others. So
I don't know who said it, but this quote really resonates with me, which is comparison is the thief of joy. And unfortunately in the world that we live in today, even in financial advisor land, on LinkedIn and on Instagram and Facebook and at different places, it's very easy to see other advisors who are out doing stuff that are really cool, or they're talking to folks, or you look and you're like, well, let me look at their follower accounts or their engagement on their stuff, and you think to yourself, oh my god, and this is going to sound really harsh, oh, I'm a loser, I can't do anything. And I think that we're missing the point. It's you can't compare your chapter 2 to somebody's chapter 20, and you can't compare your lack of courage to put yourself out there and consistency against somebody that could have started off on and putting themselves out there, whether it was in social media or blogs or videos or YouTube or whatever the heck medium you want to use. You can't compare your chapter 2 to their chapter 30 and the time that it took for them to get there. And I think the reality of it is that it really doesn't matter how many followers that you have or how big you get in those sort of settings. It really matters that you find your audience and you're communicating to your audience, you're educating your audience, you're speaking to your audience, and the people that resonate with you as a human being, your style, your heart, what you're bringing through the camera, your writing, whatever. Those are the people that are eventually going to be like, you know what? When I'm ready, that's the person, right? And we have to do enough work in putting ourselves out there to compete against weapons of mass distraction, which are these devices that we now live in today. We all live in a world where everything's instant, and we are dealing with digital dementia because there's so many pings and dings and other stuff coming at us. So if we're not out there, if we're not saturating, if we're not omnipresent, we're missing out on opportunities to really bring our greatness and impact into helping other human beings.
yes. And how do you recommend? I mean, I even find myself going, oh, I've got to step off of LinkedIn for a while because I'm falling into the trap of comparison. And no matter how many followers you get or how many likes or engagements or any of that, you can still fall victim to, it's kind of like that hedonic treadmill where you keep moving up, being like, well, I have this many, they have 20,000. I don't have 20,000. I got to get up there. Or they had this many likes or that many likes. So I find I have to your point, step away and be like, okay, I'm not playing that game.
Well,
If I start comparing. So what do you recommend for people?
what I really like, couple things. One, I think it's super important that when you're trying to get out there, you have a framework from which you work with, right? And so for me, this is as simple as I'm visual. So I have a weekly calendar that I built out in Canva. And on certain days, I have themes of what I will communicate and what I'll talk about on those particular days on any social media platform, right? And I plan that monthly, I plan that quarterly, I plan themes for the year. And then I'm very simple. I work off what am I going to write for the week. And then I sit down and I execute on those things. And then the other thing that I think is important is don't measure your success with follower count. Measure your success with something that can't be directly quantified, which is what are the quality of the relationships that you're making on social media platforms, whether that be LinkedIn, whether that be Instagram or Facebook, right? And where you choose to spend your time is going to be driven on where are your ideal clients or where are your strategic partners or centers of influences that you're trying to connect with. And so I sit here today and I look at, let's say, other advisors who have way more followers than me. But I sit here and I look at my pipeline of business that comes in from relationships that I've cultivated online. And I bet if we stack my pipeline against theirs, that mine looks bigger or it's just as comparable. But on the surface, it doesn't look like it. So I think it really comes down to quality of relationships and engagement and not quantity, which is totally contradictory to what these algorithms and platforms want us to believe.
Right. And I think one of the things about when you focus on the quality and again, we're talking social media, but it could be in any interaction that you're having with people at any stage of the game, is that especially now, one of the things that a lot of advisors are fighting against, especially if they're in a smaller organization, they're earlier on, or they're just in a company that is virtual or not coming into the office, is they're really fighting loneliness, right? Like that emptiness and lacking the human connection. And I did episode, I think it was 17, where I talked about isolation and loneliness, but I really, that is a piece that's really worrying me overall, like not just for us, but for the population as a whole. But how is it that I know you've done a lot of work with this, with the network that you put together in helping advisors feel some more community instead of feeling.
Yeah. I think it's super important. I think as human beings, let alone financial advisors, which we're exposed to our own unique set of emotional challenges. I think it's important that we get ourselves aligned with other people that can help us become who we really want to become. So I learned this concept probably 17 or 18 years ago. I was reading Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, and he talked about this concept where he essentially created his own personal board in his mind of all these different historical figures from like Abe Lincoln and all these other folks that George Washington and all these amazing men at his particular point in time. And that was his informal board of directors that he would draw inspiration from their characteristics. And I think as advisors, and I've talked about this on different podcasts, and I have resources if anybody wants this. But I think as advisors, we need to be assembling our own personal board of directors, right? And I have a framework I can provide for folks. And we really need to be focused on the whole element of the advisor, from where are you going with your career, where are you going professionally, where are you going personally, where are you going from a wellness standpoint, who do you need to be surrounded with. And this is not a succeed alone deal. If there's anybody that we see now that's super successful in our profession, I can assure you they did not get where they got alone. And so I think it's important as advisors that we get ourselves connected to community. Community can come in so many different ways. Community can come from, you're on LinkedIn because we were talking about it, and you find somebody else who's an advisor doing some cool stuff, and you go and you support them, and then you send them a message, and then you start a weekly or monthly Zoom call with that person, and then you turn it into a little group, and you're having conversations, and you're openly sharing, you're learning from other people that you know, like, and trust and respect. It could come from Facebook groups or private groups on Mighty Network or Circle or wherever the heck, or School now, because that's the latest, buzzword going around in our industry. But I think you got to get around other folks so that you can learn and you can pick up ideas, so that nobody has it all figured out. But if you get enough people that have pieces of the puzzle fizzled out, you figure it out. You can literally pull the pieces that you want and assemble it on your own and become a better version of yourself, so that you can be worthy of achieving the goals and having the impact that you want.
I think that will also, having the community of other advisors helps you ignore the comparison game, because it's more of a we're in it together instead of I'm against you, you're against me type of thing. I do that as a coach. I get together with other coaches, even direct competitor people, who I'm like, let's get on the same call and talk about this. Let's get together and share. What are you seeing? Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm faced with. I'm having this problem. Are you seeing that? How would you solve it? And it's been amazing in being able to do that and shifting the game on that.
Yeah. So one point or one quote I want to leave the folks that are listening with that Kristin just said and we're talking about, which is this: competition is for amateurs. Collaboration is for professionals. And the reality of it is, if you try to compete, you're never going to grow. But if you learn to collaborate, if you learn to be curious, if you learn to ask something of somebody else who's doing something successful in some way in earnestness and with sincerity, you'll be surprised how you grow, and honestly, how it makes the other person feel being able to help you. Because the reality is that everybody likes to help other people, right? And I think that's a fact.
And that's what gets exciting. Like when I know our first conversation, I think we were like stepping over each other, trying to be like, well, did you ever read this? What about this book? It was like full on. We listed out books left and right. You sent me a few books I have sitting here behind me. Why don't you share for the people listening, like what these two favorite books that you had sent out?
Oh man, I have well, I got a lot of favorite books. So
I'm saying the two you sent me were Play Bigger.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk about that and Advisor Century. So my favorite book ever, and shout out to Dan Sullivan as strategic coach. I love you, even though I've never met you in person. I've met you in books many times. Is a book called the Advisor Century. So this book, okay, you can buy it on Amazon used, or you can go to the Strategic Coach store. This book maybe cost me $30 or $40. This book has made me millions over the last 15 years. The concepts, the frameworks, and the confidence that it gave me to be able to show up better for my clients and really solve their problems and be a hero to them are invaluable. So highly, highly recommend that book. And the second book is called Play Bigger. And in this book, the authors talk about how do you become a category of one, okay? We all think that we are competing with other advisors. When I walk into another room with other advisors, I'm never competing with them, because nobody's like me. Nobody does it the way that I do it. Nobody relates to other human beings the way that I relate to other human beings. Nobody communicates the way that I do. Nobody brings warmth, right? Or whatever your positive attributes. Nobody is like that, okay? And so you who are listening to this, you have your own things about you. You have your own essence as a human being. That's going to connect with other people that I could never connect with. So you're not in competition with anybody. But what this book talks about is you get so good that the way you do what you do, there's nobody else. You create a category where none existent. So think Uber, think the concept of Zoom, think the concept of, you're going to search the internet. It became, you're going to Google something. So when you become a category of one, you never have to worry about your value. You typically are more profitable than other folks, and you disrupt the marketplace. And to me, having a framework, then having the confidence to create something that makes you a category one brings no level of competition from anybody else, which would then allow you to collaborate more easily with other folks because you'll have the confidence to say, cool, I can talk to you about these things that I'm doing in my practice because, like, quite frankly, you'll never be able to deliver them the way I will.
Right. And they're saying the same thing to you about you and their unique, as Dan Sullivan would say, your unique ability. Which, by the way, I think that brings it kind of full circle on like, and then we don't have to compare ourselves to others and be like, oh, they have this or they have that. When you focus in on this is what I do best and who I serve best and what makes me special and different in a category of one. So you really brought that around there. Perfect.
Yeah, I think the most important habit that advisors who are listening to this, whether you're a growing RIA owner like myself, scaling quickly, or you're a solo practice that intends to get an assistant and an associate, and maybe you're going to be a small, nimble ensemble in the future. The most important thing that you could do today, right now, is really make time to be your authentic self, and then make time to invest into yourself and start reading books. I talk to a lot of folks about reading. They're like, well, how did you get all this knowledge? Or, I'm like, well, I read. Well, I don't have time to read. Well, I'm going to disrupt everybody's myth. There's a concept that I practice called the bookend strategy. And the bookend strategy says this: you can only control how you start your day and how you finish your day. You have no control over what happens in the middle. You can influence it, but sometimes it's out of your control. So for me, I read 5 pages of a book in the morning and 5 pages in the book before I go to bed. That's 10 pages of a book a day. And on the weekends, I have more time. I'll read longer, but at minimum, I'm going to do my 10 pages. You'll get through 30 books that way in a year. And then if you want to accelerate, you can start tapping on things like listening to Audible while you do the dishes or fold the laundry or cut the grass or whatever your mindless activity is that you do to decompress.
Yes, that is my strategy. I am all Audible leveraging while I'm doing dishes, folding laundry. You hit all the ones I do.
Well, I would tell you too, like, think about it. If you guys want to become more, you've got to upgrade your operating system, and books and podcasts and Audible books are the way that you install new software into your brain so that you can elevate your mind. And as a result, you can elevate yourself as a professional. But here's the reality of it. And like, this is a principle that we live by in our firm, and something I try to bring into my life is EQ first, IQ second, which is AKA people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I don't care how smart you are. If you're not a kind human being, if you don't bring EQ to all your interactions, you're never going to become as successful or as impactful or have significance that you want from the work that you do.
Yes, absolutely. And the EQ is essentially your emotional intelligence. If anyone is unfamiliar with that term, but I think it's pretty well known now. But if not, Google it, get the book on it. We highly recommend that too.
Great book.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to remember it's called Emotional Intelligence, I believe. The book.
It is. I think it's by Daniel Goleman. Yep. I believe so. Yeah, shout out to Daniel Coleman. Make sure we tag him too on LinkedIn.
Exactly. It's great. All right. So podcast about fulfillment, being a full advisor, a full person. What fulfills you, Eric?
Oh man, there's so many directions I could take that question, but I'm going to keep it super simple. Like, what gives me the most fulfillment day in and day out? You know, I had a couple of life purposes or isms. One was never to do anything that if my parents read it in the paper the next day, they would be upset about. And two, to try to do something that would make them proud. And my life of philosophy, which is the thing that drives me the most, is this: I want to leave every conversation, every text message, every email, every Zoom call, every face to face meeting, every interaction with another human being, I want to leave them better off than I found them. And that's the thing that gives me the greatest fulfillment, right? And it really taps into my purpose of wanting to help people grow and be an encourager.
That's fantastic. And it's obvious. I mean, again, I told you from the beginning when I met you and stepped away from the call, I was like on a hot, right away, because you have that vibe and impression. So advisors tuning into this, I know you have resources you've mentioned that are available. Where can they find these resources, and how can they get in touch with you?
So come and follow me on all your favorite social media platforms, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. I'll give you a little bit more behind the scenes there. There's a lot of stuff going on Instagram right now. If you're not on it, Financial Advisors, Facebook. And I will be sure to provide Kristin with some links that she can throw into the show notes so that you can download how to build your personal board of directors and the daily habits for success as a financial advisor guide that you can download and start working through.
That's great. Thanks, Eric. That's fantastic. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to have you on today. Thank you so much for carving out some time of your busy schedule to come and inspire and elevate all of us at Full Advisor Coaching.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kristin. It's true pleasure and honor. And I appreciate you for inviting me to help elevate the profession.
Great conversation. Really great. My takeaway from it, because I just think it's so unique and it's really interesting, and I'm going to have to think about it now, is building my own personal board of directors. Okay, I really like that idea, because it creates a measure or something to compare yourself with and give yourself feedback in a constructive way, as opposed to falling for that illusion that social media creates so much of the time. So
right.
I love that.
Actually, I'm actually going to I'm going to pull it up on the screen here.
Okay.
Where is this thing here? Hold on. Let me pull it over here. And screen. It's legit a worksheet that we built.
Oh, nice.
Excellent. Yes.
It takes them through who sits in the different seats. I actually do this every single quarter, and I assemble my board based on where I need to go like, who do I need for me to hit my goals? Who needs to be in my corner? Who needs to sit in each one of these seats?
That's cool.
Okay,
I love that.
I'm downloading that as well.
I do this every quarter, and it would blow your mind. The things that have come, especially the connector and the mentors, are two of the things that have been the best for me.
Fantastic.
That is awesome.
Wow, this is great. So thanks, Eric. This will be perfect. So
thank you, Eric. And we can make note of that in the show notes for those of you who are listening to this who may be driving or don't have, we can't write it down at the moment. The other thing before we get out of here really, really quickly, if you've got advisors who are listening to this podcast, Kristin, who find what you have to say interesting and maybe want to have a longer conversation with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, that's simple. You can come on LinkedIn and send me a message, or even better, go to fulladvisorcoaching.com, hit the request to call button, and you'll be able to pick a time and we can have a conversation. So I highly encourage you to do that. I'm always open and willing to chat. So again, fulladvisorcoaching.com, click the request to call and we'll have a conversation.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. And if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, I would encourage you to do one simple thing: hit the follow button, become a subscriber. That way, you do not have to worry about where you saw this or how often Kristin puts out a podcast. And we can just eliminate all the confusion, because when you're a subscriber, you're notified when a new episode of this podcast is dropped and you can listen to it. I would also encourage you, if you like it, to share it with other people. Let them know. Word of mouth promotion is appreciated. Thanks so much. Until next time, I'm Bill Tucker on behalf of Kristin and everybody at Full Advisor Coaching. Thanks for taking the time to listen today. And I want to remind you that you can go out today and make today a great day or not. It's a choice, and it's yours to make. Thanks for listening. Until next time.